Auburn's huge recruiting weekend was an absolute success.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. What a huge recruiting weekend it was. We were joined by Brian Smith, Locked On Recruiting Insider, also Auburn Daily recruiting writer. And our recruiting coverage here at Locked On is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. Be sure to check out LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Brian, we'll talk about who could possibly be next for the Auburn Tigers, as well as a big name that is emerging in the 2026 class. But Eric Winters makes his decision public. You and I were joking about this last week, saying like we've been talking about Eric Winters for forever. But just in time, with the House of Dragon premiere happening last night, Winters is coming to Auburn. And you think he is as versatile as it gets. He's dynamic as it gets. And it's another top 10 player in the state that's choosing Auburn.
This is a young man that plays quarterback, running back, receiver, safety, and linebacker. Besides that, he's a great special teams player. So he's not versatile at all. Yeah,
right. He only could do everything. That's right.
In the 1990s, Tom Osborne would have recruited him as an option quarterback. He's super mobile. He makes guys miss. He's 200 pounds. I'm not saying he's Tommy Frazier, but he's built just like him. This is a kid that also is a big hitter, and he can pick off the ball. When he runs all the way across the field, you think he has no shot at it. He'll get a pick. Great burst. I'm curious to see all the different things Auburn's going to do with him, but Eric has told me that Auburn's plan is to play him at the hybrid spot, hybrid linebacker, hybrid safety, whatever you want to call it, over the slot.
Okay.
And he thinks that he can do it. He's already 205 pounds.
Yeah.
So I think he's eventually going to grow into a will and at least play that part of the time. But it depends on the team you're playing. With all these different kinds of offenses, some run 4 and 5 wide, some use 2 tight ends. They'll move Eric around week to week. And he loves football, so it's okay.
This seems to kind of be a thing where we've talked about with several guys now, either guys that are already part of this class or guys that Auburn's pursuing heavily. It's like, look, this guy's really good. He's really talented. Could probably help you in multiple ways. Let's just get him on the roster. We will figure everything else out later.
I don't think there's a better way to put it than that. Like Fagans is a kid that they really want. He's another guy. He could play corner, safety, nickel, whatever. If you have guys like that, when you play a unique team, you're going to have at least one guy that could match up with their stud. That's the objective, because offenses always had the advantage.
Right.
So Auburn's now sitting pretty. They've got a bunch of versatile kids, and it also helps getting Eric because Zion Grady is his teammate at Enterprise High School down in southeastern Alabama, one of the top prospects he just visited. Great prospect, defensive end, outside linebacker, another versatile young man. It's ironic. This is a really versatile group in state, by the way. It's really, really good. And this is a great start too. There are 15 commitments, by the way. I wrote about this today at Auburn Daily. They got the opportunity now to be picky, kind of go after the really, really good kids and play their cards as they see fit. Auburn should end up conservative with the top 10 class, has a shot at top 5.
Yeah, you also have the option to get a larger class than you typically would because you have 1 million seniors that are about to leave. So this could be a larger class than normal as well, which is important.
I was thinking about that today. Do you want to save a few more than normal because of that for the portal, or you just go on in high school? Do you balance it? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe it's just depending on who wants to come.
I mean, it's going to be a huge reset, though. I mean, Auburn's going to be pretty young next year unless they just totally, hit the portal again, which they may need to. This may be the last year where they really need to hit it.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you're looking at 20-ish seniors, and I say ish because some of those guys still have eligibility left, and some may, underperform and not quite be ready to go to the draft and want to stay another year, or maybe NIL is competitive enough where it's worth staying another year. We'll see. But you also are going to have guys that leave early. You're also going to have guys that transfer. So there's going to be a ton of spots open. So I'm with you. Be picky. And I think the staff is to the point where they kind of are being a little picky at some positions over others, which is good. They've worked their tails off to put themselves in this situation.
Sure.
But also, like, just fill the roster up. I mean, just get as many guys as possible at this point because it's going to work itself out. There's a lot of these guys are going to have to transfer in a few years anyway, just due to playing time and the pecking order of things. If I'm freezing this staff, I'm just getting as many talented guys as possible.
The only thing with that is you would like to get a few more impact guys so you can get away from the portal, which that plays into the, unfortunately, most of those kind of guys wait to the end. So it's bird in hand, which two in the bush. You know, who do you take? Do you not take this kid? He's third on your board, but you really want this other guy that's going to wait. Recruiting is fascinating like that. So again, they're at 15 guys. I think 22-ish is kind of like the minimum I think they would take at this point is my guess. I could see 24 if there's a couple 5-stars at the end that are still, I mean, you would take, you know, if it's Zion Grady and guys like that are around too, you have to at least consider taking those guys. I don't know why you wouldn't. So yeah, Auburn's in a good spot regardless. It's a nice place to be compared to like when I first started talking a couple of years ago, this was not Auburn's position.
No, this is kind of uncharted waters for Auburn. Like they never have this many guys at this point of the year. It's unique. It's very fun. It's very fun. So Eric Winters is obviously a big addition because he is an incredible football player. But there's also two other angles of this. And one is Georgia wanted him. There's a lot of people that are now saying that Georgia didn't want him, which I think is for folks listening and not watching on YouTube, Brian's eye roll right there. I mean, it was pretty dramatic, but it was accurate because there's no way every program in the country wants Eric Winters.
Look, I've never met a fan base that didn't have that guy that says, well, we really didn't want him right after his school lost the recruitment.
Right.
Georgia's got, by and large, most of the guys I know, the Georgia recruiting base and all that are good guys, but the fans, that's a different entity.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And there's a few I saw on Twitter. I'm like, I'm not going to comment, but this guy's a buffoon.
Yeah.
You know, at one point I thought Eric was going to go there. So that was a very heated race, and maybe they'll get somebody else.
Because Georgia wanted him. Because Georgia was pursuing him. That's why it was a race.
That's what I mean. Like,
right, 100%.
Kirby took the helicopter to Enterprise High School. What does that tell you? We're lukewarm on this kid. Let's get in the helicopter and go to a just random high school in South Alabama.
That's right.
Right. Come on.
That's right. The other angle of this is winning the big in-state battles. So looking at the top 10 players in the state, this is according to On3. Naeem Offord is number 1, committed to Ohio State. Auburn's going to push for him. I don't think Auburn's out of it. Jared Smith, I don't know. Derek Smith, committed to Alabama. I don't know. Number 4 is Anquan Fagans. I like Auburn's chances there. 5 is Eric Winters, committed. 6 is Zion Grady. We're going to talk about him more next segment, but I think Auburn is in a great spot for Zion Grady. 7 is Malik Autry, committed. 8 is Jacaleb Falk, committed. 9 is KJ Lacey, who I think they have a really strong chance to get if it goes south with Juju Lewis. And then 10 is Micah DeBose. Auburn has appeared to back off of him. They're fine at offensive line. So, and then just to scroll down a few, Jordan Crawford is 14. But you just look at this top 10, and they've got 1, 2, 3. They've got 3 committed. But we also think, if you add Fagans and I'm going to add Grady in there, I mean, you're looking at Auburn having.
If you get 5 out of the top 10, you're happy.
You're ecstatic. You're over the moon, Brian.
Yeah, this is a state that Auburn used to get those kind of numbers. That was before Clemson got good, and that was before Kirby was at Georgia.
Sure.
Those 2 head coaches have caused Auburn as much, if not more, problems than Alabama, because like it or not, Alabama is going to out-recruit Auburn most years in state.
Georgia will have none of those players, by the way. Of the top 10,
that is shocking because he really knows that state. Kirby was a dominant recruiter for Nick. He knows every high school coach in the state.
Right.
That's really shocking. Maybe it doesn't end that way. Maybe he ends up getting somebody, but like you never know. I never count Kirby out. But
yeah, no, you shouldn't. Right.
That's wild to me because going into each year, you think conservatively 2 out of the top 12, but 2 out of the top 10 are going Georgia.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. So that's a great sign. And also, unless I'm wrong, Clemson's not going to get anybody this year in that top group.
No.
And they have taken some guys at Auburn really.
I don't think they're really in it for any of these guys. I'm trying to think. I don't think like Clemson was in anybody's like Final
lost
Three or
mojo big time over the last couple of years because
Clemson's not really the cool school anymore. Like everybody kind of goes through phases, and it seems like Clemson's fizzled out.
It's amazing when you don't have a generational quarterback how you're not as cool. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, he got several generational quarterbacks in a row. Like, good for him. Good for him. But
yeah,
ride that while you can, for sure. All right, who could be next to join this 2025 class for the Tigers? We'll throw a few names out in just a moment. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. Look, recruiting is fun, especially when you're doing it well. It's also really fun when you do it well for your small business. And LinkedIn Jobs knows how hard it is to find quality candidates for your open positions. And so they made it as easy as possible. They've got it where they understand you're busy and you don't have a ton of time, but this is something that you need to make sure you get right so you're not rehiring for the same job 6 months later. LinkedIn's not just another job board. They have all sorts of screening questions. They can find you the best candidates. So right now, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Brian, when we look at some potential names that could be the next to commit to the Auburn Tigers, let's stay with the 2025 class because there are guys in the 2026 class that could be the next to commit technically. But Herbert Scroggins, which is a guy that I have not talked about a ton on this show. He's an edge player, Savannah, Georgia kid who we call him hulking super teens. He is exactly what you want in a player. 6'3". Some places have him listed at 6'3", 215. I think 247 has him at like 6'1", 6'2", 230. Regardless, he passes the eye test, and when you watch his tape, he's dynamic as well.
I was at a game last year scouting the quarterback that's now at Florida State, and I walked over to the Florida State quarterback coach, Tony Tokars. I'm like, who is that kid? He says, oh, that's Scroggs. I'm like, what? He goes, that's what we call him. It's Herbert Scroggins. And I'm like, that kid's an underclassman. He was talking to me about like, that kid's an underclassman? He looks like he's 20 years old when he was 16. And he's just humongous. He's 230, and he's playing outside linebacker, dropping into coverage, covering guys. When he wanted to go after the quarterback, he could get to anything. And I'm like, okay, this guy's going to go wherever he wants. Mm-hmm. It took a little while because he lives in Savannah. It's about as far away from Atlanta as you can be in the state of Georgia. Yeah. It's on the coast. But he now has a ton of SEC interest, et cetera, and I can see why. He's fast, he's long, he's athletic, and he's a natural pass rusher. Anytime Auburn can get those guys, it's a big thumbs up. So
yeah, no question.
Walking in the door, he looks like literally he's at least 20 years old right now. He's like he's been through the college weight room already too.
Yeah, I mean, he passes the eye test. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you when we were on the phone earlier talking, and I want you to have the same reaction if you can. I asked, is Scroggins purely a pass rusher?
No. He is a do everything that he needs to do guy.
Sure, yeah. If
it's 3rd and 6 and you want to catch them zone fire, dropping a defensive end, outside linebacker guy, he can do that.
Right. Yeah.
That's what this defense, like Durkin is a very versatile coach, and you're going to see a lot of zone fire. You're going to see guys dropping all over the place and trying to confuse quarterbacks. Scroggins is not he's about 230 right now, by the way. He's not your typical guy at that side. He can backpedal. I'm not saying he's a corner, but against a tight end or running back, just a flat route, he can close and stalk that guy and get him to the ground. Mm-hmm. And if you can pass rush like he does, like he has a natural dip and rip, come off the edge, go around the tackle, speed rush.
His arms are so long.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, if he gets full separation on a tackle,
it's
he
hilarious.
Has so much like space to move and create. Like he's built like a pass rusher. That's exactly what you want.
If he was at Buford, he'd be a high 4-star kid, but he's at Benedictine Military School in Savannah. Yeah. I'm one of the few guys that's seen him. I don't even know if anybody else has really. Because
Rivals has him as a 4-star. He's unrated on ESPN. He's a 3-star on 247 and on 3.
The only reason Rivals has him there is because I got over Garcia about putting him there. Because I went to see, that's fact. He would not be ranked a 4-star if it wasn't for me. Because I'm telling you need to go see this kid. But he lives no middle of nowhere. So I think colleges, once they got the film, were like, oh, okay, Florida State wants him, South Carolina, et cetera. Now then the offers started for
it looks like Miami pursued him too. So
he fits what they want. Jason Taylor is a tremendous recruiter, and they recruit defensive line very hard.
Oh, if I'm an edge and Jason Taylor calls me,
well, I mean, yeah, I would
I'm not hanging up, you know. Another guy, Brian, is Zion Grady. I mean, it sounds like Auburn has made a tremendous stride with Zion Grady, who's another edge guy. And this is kind of seen as an Alabama lean for a big chunk of this recruitment. But to me, it seems like Auburn made an impression.
He was committed to Saban and the Tide. Saban goes into retirement. And for whatever reason, I don't know how accurate this is, I've been told that Alabama did not call him. Now, there are other kids they screwed up on too, but they screwed up Zion's recruitment. Yeah. And now they're in the mix, sort of, maybe, but Florida State had a great visit with him. Miami's after him. His list is a who's who of the Dixie tradition-rich program. So Auburn's got a great shot. They've had him on campus. I've interviewed him over at Auburn. Quiet kid, doesn't say much, had a good visit. But now it's just closing time, and I'm sure Eric Winters, again, he's his teammate, probably helps the Tigers. It can't hurt.
Right.
The only question is, like, does he want to go a little further from home or something? That's because he knows Auburn like the back of his hand. Now, he's been so many times.
Right.
The only question, again, is does he want to go further? Because there's really nothing else for him to see at Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah. Several other big names that could be next to commit to Auburn, including even guys in the 2026 class. We'll discuss more of these options in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. Summertime means baseball or maybe the NBA Finals. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I don't know how FanDuel's still operating with this deal that they're running. You need to, they'll run it like $200 for a few weeks, and then, they'll drop it. I think they realize, like, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea that we're doing this? Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. It's $200 that you can use to bet on anything from who's gonna be the Cy Young winner, or heck, you can even lean into Auburn futures. They still have Auburn's win total at 7.5. You feel strongly about the Tiger season, go and take the over. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Brian, a few minutes left, and there's still several names that could be the next to commit to Auburn. They've got so much momentum with so many talented players. We talked about it about this guy a lot last week. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but Blake Woodby, the corner that's committed to Ohio State, very, very fast, very, very rangy. He's kind of been crystal balled and predicted by several folks to land at Auburn. And I actually don't think he's committed to Ohio State anymore. He officially decommitted, right? Yeah, he decommitted. So wouldn't technically be a flip, but still a talented player.
That's a kid that you would take every time. He's low 4.4 as of last summer electronically. Right. Plays at an elite program, and he can play nickel or play outside. Great personality, great kid. Offer list is through the roof, Oregon and schools all the way across the country. Yeah. And like you and I were talking the other day, they need corners because they're going to lose a couple guys. And then Kayan Lee might leave after his junior year, so you want to be ahead of that.
Right.
Auburn needs at least 3 corners in this class, and one of them could end up at safety anyway. So if you get 4 or more, it is what it is.
Yeah. Another guy that could be next to commit, you're hearing a lot of smoke with Elijah Melendez, who is obviously close to the Miami program. He's a Miami commit, but the linebacker Elijah Melendez, what are your thoughts on his recruitment?
His recruitment has been wild. It is commit early to Miami, but visited about every school in the South, it seems like. So Auburn is one of the last visits, and they did a great job, and it's a school that he really, really likes, and they'll be in the final group. Auburn's defensive recruiting, by the way, has been off the charts this year.
Right.
Maybe he's the final piece at linebacker they get for the 25 class.
Yeah, it'd be a fun. If I was a linebacker and they were adding all those other pieces, behind you and in front of you, it'd be intriguing. It would be an intriguing situation for sure. So we'll see on Melendez. Let's talk. Let's hold off on the 2026 name for just a second, and we got to talk about Juju Lewis. Declined to interview when he was leaving Auburn, but it sounds like he gets along with everybody. Brian, it sounds like the meeting went really, really well. It seems like he likes Auburn. You and I have talked about this before. His family is a big part of this recruitment. Yeah. And it sounds like Hugh Freeze has made his relationship with Juju's father a priority. And we'll see if that plays out and if it works out for the USC quarterback commit.
It's interesting because you would think pretty soon he'd want to be done with this. Like, he hates dealing with the media. And I get it. And his dad's a part of that too. But he's going to get bugged to death until he openly on video says, I'm done and I'm going to, and fills it out, whatever school that is. So sounds like it's Auburn or SC. He visited SC. Now they just visited Auburn. There's really nothing else for him to see.
Yeah, there's that Colorado official visit.
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that.
And I'm sure Auburn's like trying to get him to not take that. But even if he does take it, like, I don't think he's going to Colorado. But if he does cancel it, I do think he's keying in on somebody soon.
I can't imagine he goes past July without making some kind of statement. He doesn't want to go into the season dealing with guys like me going to his games, interviewing him afterwards.
Right.
Like, we have to do it. You have to formally announce that I'm done. And he hasn't done it yet. So I think it'll be between now and about the 15th of July.
Right. Okay, so this is a guy that I haven't asked you about while we've been recording, but a 2026 name that there seems to be a lot of smoke with, Shadarius Tootle.
Yep.
Mobile kid. Seems like LSU's going after him. Ohio State's going after him. But a lot of people think Auburn is the favorite here. And once again, a 2026 guy. Auburn may be on this guy early.
Yeah, he's from a very small school, Cottage Christian or something like that. I forget the name.
Cottage Hill, I believe.
Cottage Hill, yeah. And it's like, I have no idea what's going on there, but he plays small school competition. And when the video starts, you don't need a guide to figure out which one Shadarius is.
Got it.
He's the one that stands out. You're like, oh, okay, that must be him. He's the middle linebacker that's the hulking beast in the middle of the field that runs down guys that are 50 pounds less than him. So that's a good sign. Thumper, really good in space. He had a couple picks, had over 100 tackles, and he's a good running back. It's not fair that he's playing small school competition, but it's fun to watch. So he's a kid that's got a potential to grow into an edge. He's 210, 215 right now and looks thin. He's just an athletic kid with big, broad shoulders. He could be 240 when he's done growing.
Yeah, which is amazing because the only tape you've seen so far is, I guess, his sophomore year, which is wild to think about.
Him playing like 1A school competition. It's hilarious because he just murders people.
Just not fair. Just not fair at all. So let's zoom out for a second. We talked about how Auburn has 15 guys committed. By the end of July, that number could be 20. Like it could be. I think it'll certainly be at 20 before the start of the high school season. So at what point does the staff, because they've put themselves in a great situation and in a situation that Auburn folks aren't particularly used to, when do you pivot to 2026? Because it always kind of felt like Auburn was behind, and it doesn't appear that they're behind anymore. So what's an ideal schedule in your mind here?
Well, it's ironic that you mentioned that because it started yesterday at midnight.
The
way the NCAA works now, and of course their laws change nonstop. They drive me crazy. But at midnight on the 15th, you could directly contact the class of 26, rising juniors.
Oh, yeah. They put out that post at midnight. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. And the other part of this, barring something unforeseen, and again, it is the NCAA.
Right.
Next summer, there will be an early signing period. If you do not get in on it now, you will get left behind. So whether they want to or not, this is the 1 year. This is the only time you're out to do it. You're recruiting two classes at the same time. The clock is now on. It's about a year from now, you're going to have signing day for 26. This is going to be the last December signing day. At least that's the way you got to plan it. If they change it again, then whatever. Mm-hmm. But Auburn has to be ready for that. So they're in on a bunch of kids. They've had a bunch of kids to campus. And that's just the practice that you got to go. It's hard this year. There'll be more kids visit Auburn this fall than there will ever be because of all the underclassmen.
Well, they've got the staff to handle it. So,
yes, they do.
Auburn may be better suited for that than most schools in the SEC, the way things are going right now. So
they've done a great job getting kids to campus multiple times before OVs. And that's one of the reasons they got 15 commits right now.
Right. No question about it. So, yeah, Shadarius Tootle, last name to mention, 2026 linebacker. Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on right now, man?
Well, Auburn Daily is going to be fun. I think this week we should hear more good news, barring something unforeseen.
Agreed.
And this is
probably a guy that we talked about today, just now.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
And at FB Scout _Florida on X, a little bit of everything going on in the recruiting world, a lot of commitments.
Yeah. Good time to follow Auburn recruiting. No question about it. You can do it all at auburndaily.com. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.